Question: which mental illness has the highest likelihood of taking the sufferer's life? If you answered drug addiction, no. In this video, we are looking at the 5 deadliest mental illness conditions based on how likely they are to cause the death of the individual suffering from them, and what those conditions and their consequences mean for that individual and their loved ones. Heads up, this is your warning that this video may contain topics that some may find disturbing at this time. If you feel like that is you, please go and watch one of our other videos. Please like and subscribe if you find this video informative. Now let's talk the 5 deadliest mental illnesses. You may be wondering why we are talking about this on the Death Acceptance channel, and it's very simple. Death denial is very real, and many individuals suffering from these conditions and many of those around them refuse to believe how serious and deadly these conditions are. And having seen them all over my career, I can tell you the stats do not lie. And it is important to mention here, deadliest doesn't just mean intentionally taking themselves out of the gene pool. And yes, I can only say the S word so many times before YouTube will take this down, so bear with me. But it also includes accident, homicide, and health deterioration, amongst other things. And with that, our 5th deadliest mental illness is number 5, borderline personality disorder. The DSM states that there are 16 categories of mental illness, and this one obviously comes under the personality disorders category. These individuals have usually had a very unstable upbringing, which leads to unstable development, which leads to borderline personality. They sustain a pattern of instability throughout their adult lives and often appear in a crisis of mood, behavior, or interpersonal relationships. They have an extreme fear of abandonment, which leads them to having strong attachment issues and can often become hostile when they believe they are being ignored. But why is this condition so deadly? It is because they are extremely impulsive, which often leads them to harm or mutilate themselves as an expression of anger, a cry for help, or attention. Often when they feel they have been abandoned or mistreated, and that doesn't take much. The problem is that they have often infuriated and manipulated those around them for so long that no one responds to this anymore. In response, they try more dangerous things in order to receive that attention, and that often leads to death. Now, many of you who have never been around this condition before will likely cry, "But they can't help it, you should always be there for them," which is extremely naive. Loved ones of these individuals do the best they can, but they are constantly emotionally manipulated, regularly verbally, and sometimes physically abused. Post-traumatic stress in loved ones of sufferers of this condition is extremely high. And regrettably, many loved ones after the individual's death say they feel relieved, and then they feel guilty about feeling that. This is a condition with an unusually long lead-up of interpersonal conflicts throughout childhood. It absolutely can be prevented if they are taken out of that environment and put into therapy at a young age. After that, it's a very different story. Number 4, substance-related disorder. We all knew substance abuse was going to be on this list somewhere. You can know very little about mental health, but you know that deaths are high with this one. And it is rarely due to suicide, but mostly due to accidental overdose, infection, health deterioration, and homicide. Saying that, not all drugs have a high death rate, and in Australia it is opioids and methamphetamines that have the highest amounts of death links to them. Alcohol-related deaths are very close, but not necessarily by those addicted to it. This is another disorder that can be seen coming. Rebellion, bad mental health, low self-esteem, boredom, peer pressure are all issues that have the chance of being nipped in the butt before an individual turns to drugs in the first place. But once someone is in addiction, getting them out again is ridiculously difficult. And the worse it gets, the more it affects those around them. The studies are endless and the evidence is very clear. This is another condition that often leaves loved ones with post-traumatic stress after years of stress and trauma caused by the individual and their addiction. Many families are in massive amounts of debt from paying for multiple, as in dozens, of rehab stints, and for just flat out being robbed by their addicted loved one. And this is where we talk about anticipatory grief. This is a process through which grieving begins in expectation of an imminent loss. For families facing the addiction of a family member, every unexpected absence, every late night phone call, every knock on the door elicits images of injury and death. These feared tragedies are repeatedly visualized and experienced, with each episode marking an increment of physical and emotional disengagement. Anticipatory grief is natural and a very common response to this situation, especially as it goes on for years, as statistically, the likelihood of death is higher the longer it goes on. Number 3, bipolar disorder. Bipolar is defined by its extreme mood swings that interfere with everyday life, extreme highs and extreme lows. It is characterized under mood disorders, and there are between 2 to 4 different types depending on which profession you ask, and it typically starts to become noticeable in late teen years. Chemical imbalances in the brain and family genetics are seen to be its causes, with 4 out of 5 people with bipolar disorder having a parent with the condition. If one parent has bipolar disorder, there is a 1 in 10 chance that the child will develop that condition. If both parents have bipolar disorder, the likelihood rises to 4 in 10. The high death rate with bipolar disorder comes primarily from the suicide rate, with those with the condition 13 times more likely to intentionally exit life than non-sufferers. This is likely down to the extreme depressive episodes and the impulsivity. However, bipolar is very treatable, though not curable, through medication and therapy. The problem, though, lies in getting these individuals to accept this help and stay on the medication. When someone suddenly goes off their medication, the consequences are often extremely self-destructive due to the chemical imbalance. Number 2, schizophrenia. Now we take a massive leap upward in the likelihood of death, and this has got to be one of the top 2 mental health conditions with the worst publicity. Contrary to what most people believe, thanks mostly to the media and Hollywood, someone with schizophrenia is no more likely to harm others than anyone else. However, they are a massive risk to themselves and often scared of their own shadow. Schizophrenia is a psychiatric disorder characterized by disruptions of thought process, perceptions, emotional responsiveness, and social interactions. Symptoms include psychotic symptoms such as hallucinations, delusions, and unusual ways of thinking. And although it varies amongst individuals, schizophrenia is typically persistent and can be both severe and debilitating. And the worst part is, there is no lead up at which to interject and stop this from taking hold like many other conditions. It doesn't care if you had a great childhood or not, if you are confident and well adjusted or not, if you have great plans of the future or not. It can and will manifest in anyone, and typically symptoms start in the late teens. When it comes to the death rate, those with schizophrenia are 15 times more likely to suicide than non-sufferers, which already puts it at the second most deadliest mental illness. But it doesn't stop there. Accidents and non-intentional death led by hallucinations and delusions are incredibly high. Other things included in that high death rate are fatal medication side effects, failure to attend hospital treatment for general health issues resulting in death, and death from abuse while institutionalized. As a mental health professional, this condition is the most upsetting to deal with because sufferers are terrified and there's not a damn thing you can do to help them in that moment. Number 1, anorexia. The deadliest mental illness is anorexia nervosa, with the Eating Disorder Coalition reporting that every 62 minutes, at least one person loses their life as a direct result of an eating disorder. Anorexia is defined by severe weight loss, refusal to gain weight, and a distorted body image. This is a condition powered by the need for control. And it is extremely difficult to get these individuals into treatment because they cannot identify that they have a problem. Because of this, 5 to 10% of those with the condition will be dead within 10 years of the symptoms beginning, and 18 to 20% will be dead within 20 years of symptoms beginning. 1 in 5 individuals with anorexia will die by taking their own life. However, it is heart disease, heart attack, and stroke that will claim the majority of lives, all resulting from complications of malnutrition. This is not a condition that comes out of nowhere. Indeed, many studies state that between 35 and 57% of adolescent girls engage in crash dieting, fasting, self-induced vomiting, diet pills, and laxatives at some point. The majority of the time, these won't be long-lasting, but that doesn't mean parents shouldn't be intervening. Low self-esteem, low confidence, body image issues, bullying because of their weight and looks can all start this condition's ball rolling. But anorexia isn't just about weight and how they look. Like we said, it is about control. And if a kid is living in an environment where they have no control of what's going on around them, they will often find the one thing they can control: what they eat. It should also be pointed out that 1 in 4 individuals suffering from anorexia is male, something that also gets overlooked. Anorexia is said to have many similarities with drug and alcohol addiction, and that really is true. The recovery roller coaster for one. It will take many tries at inpatient treatment programs. Relapse is virtually guaranteed, and those who do manage to recover are never actually considered recovered, because in recovery the chance of relapse many years down the track is still very high. The second similarity are the consequences for loved ones. There's a saying repeated by loved ones of addicts who say, you are no longer talking to your loved one, but you're talking to the addiction. And it's the same for loved ones of those with anorexia. You are no longer talking to your loved one, you are talking to anorexia. And that bitch is not pleasant. Verbal abuse, manipulation, stealing, lying are all par for the course when this condition takes hold. Individuals regularly become defensive and loved ones are left walking on eggshells, so to speak, every day. This is another condition that has a very high levels of post-traumatic stress and anticipatory grief levels in loved ones of those with the condition. Anorexia and other eating disorders are often not taken seriously by families or the media, although it was a big topic of concern throughout the 1990s and spoken about often in the media. But it seems to have been forgotten again. And when something is so deadly, that is concerning. So those are the 5 deadliest mental health conditions. And as you will have noticed, opting out of life isn't the only or even the highest reason for deaths to occur. And not only are they often deadly for the individual suffering from them, the consequences for loved ones around them can be catastrophic. Specific information regarding help for each of these conditions can be found in the description, and we will be doing a video on deaths in psychiatric institutions in the future. If you have learnt something new, please give this video a like and consider subscribing. It's very much appreciated. Now go talk death.